7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! In just a few hours, many of us will be somewhere, whether it's around a group of people or whether it's at home by ourselves, and we will be making that declaration. A new year is coming. New possibilities, new opportunities, new excitement, new chances. But for others, it's like, I don't know if I'm ready for all of that. I don't know if I want to deal with all of this new stuff when I've still got some old stuff going on. For some of us, 2023 was a great year. But for others, it was simply another year on top of a series of years of disappointment, of frustration, doubt, of worry, of sadness. But the reality is, whether we're moving to the next year with great anticipation or whether we're going into it with great hesitation, the thing we must never forget is that God is the one who's truly in control. We oftentimes find ourselves trying to navigate through the realities of life, and we're trying to do it by ourselves. We're trying to do it on our own. We're trying to do it in our own power, in our own knowledge, through our own strength, through our own understanding. And what we seriously miss is that we can't do it. Yes, we're smart. Yes, we have experiences. Yes, we have seen things. We've observed others. We've read books. We've gone to conferences. We've heard sermons. We've done all of these things. But the true reality is none of that makes us qualified to handle what's next. None of that gives us the ability, the authority to be able to handle what comes next, because we must never forget, no matter what we know, we're not in charge. No matter how much knowledge we have, we're not the ones in control. And so our job is to trust the one and submit to the one who is truly in control. Our job is to say, God, you are the one who has the final say. You are the one who has all authority. You are the one who can do anything except fail. You are the one who sees the end before I even get to the beginning. God, you are the one who has everything in your hands. And because you're the one that has everything, including my own life, in your hands, I can trust you. I can believe in you. I can stand on you. I can allow you to be God in my life. And so, God, for next year, I want to surrender to you and allow you to be God in my life. As we stand on the cusp of a new year, I want to challenge us to remember that even though we're going into a new year, we have a God who's been here before. He already knows what's going to happen. He already knows how things are going to work out. He already knows what it is that he wants to do in your life, through your life, for you and for others. Your job, your responsibility is simply to trust him. To trust him to be the God that is true to his word, that says he will never leave you nor forsake you. To trust him to be the God who is true to his word, that says that he will always be there to give you strength even in times of great trouble. To trust him to be the God who is like a father caring for his children. To trust him to be the God that is honest when he says, if you seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, then everything that you are praying for will be added to you. To trust him to be the God that is true when he says that you don't have to be anxious or worried about anything, but in everything through prayer and supplication, let your requests be made known unto God. To trust him to be God. There are a lot of things that we can do to try to prepare ourselves for the next year, to try to make sure that we are in a place physically and mentally and emotionally where we are good and moving forward and advancing. But the reality is, the greatest thing we could ever do is just give God a yes. Just surrender to him and say, God, I trust you to be the God that I know you to be. I trust you to be the God that is with me, that is standing for me, that is there working on my behalf. Trust him to be that God. And the reason why you can trust him to be that God is because in his word, he says, I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you a future and a hope. God has a plan. Oftentimes when we're trying to navigate through from where we are to where we're seeking to go, a lot of times we want to know, hey, what's the plan? What are we going to be doing? Who's there with us? All these kind of things. But the reality is, there are times when we try to do things and honestly, we just don't have a plan. We just like, hey, I'm just going to step out and I'm just going to do it, whatever the case may be. But the reality is, the assurance that we have from God is that for all of us, he has a plan. That's the beauty. That's the beauty of trusting God, is knowing that God has a plan. He's not walking us through life blindly. He's not walking us through life just trying to figure things out and going wherever the wind blows. God has a plan. A plan. Now, the trouble for some of us is that we know that God has a plan. Problem is, we want to know the plan too. We want to know the plan, the details, the timeline, all these different things. But our responsibility is to trust the one who has the plan. Our responsibility isn't to know the details. Our job isn't to know how things are going to work out. Our responsibility isn't to approve the timeline. What our responsibility is to say, God, because you have a plan, because you know the details, I'm going to trust you in it. God, because you know how things will work, how things are going to go, where my life will take me, I'm going to trust you in it. And it's important to do that because it's in the trusting that we find rest. It's in trusting God that we find rest for our minds, rest for our bodies, rest even for our spirit. It's in trusting God that we can have more restful nights than sleepless nights. It's in trusting God that we can wake up and face each day with confidence versus facing each day with worry or with doubt. It's in trusting God that we can begin to walk knowing that we have a God who has already promised that he will supply all of our needs according to his riches in glory from or through Christ Jesus. And so it's in trusting God that we have confidence. So I've come to tell you that you can walk into the next year with confidence when you trust God. You can walk into the next year with confidence because you can walk into the next year trusting that God has a plan. Don't always be so caught up on the details. Just trust that God has a plan. It's kind of like this. Many of us, most of us have some restaurant that we enjoy. And for most of us that have a favorite restaurant, there is likely a favorite dish that we have in that restaurant, a dish that is our go-to dish. We may try other things, we may experiment in other places, but when we really want that good dish, this is where we're going to go, because this is where it is the best. And so oftentimes we will go there, not even needing to look at the menu, knowing what we want, knowing who it is that is in charge or owns the restaurant. All we want to do is sit down, place our order, and then wait for our meal to come out. The interesting thing is, as we place the order, we trust that those who are working in the kitchen, those who are preparing it, are doing what needs to be done to make sure that the meal tastes the way we want it to taste. Now, I understand that sometimes we may have our own recipe for the same dish, but when we go to this particular establishment, we go there trusting that whomever is in the kitchen there is preparing it the way that they prepare it and the way we love it. We don't go into the kitchen with them and begin to ask what all ingredients are going in there. Maybe after we get the dish, we try to guess. Maybe after we get the dish, we try to taste to see what's in there or whatever. But we're not in the kitchen mixing with them. We're not in the kitchen asking why they add this ingredient before they add this one. We're not in the kitchen asking why they are breaking these things or beating these pots or heating up this fire to this level. We are just there trusting those who are preparing the meal to make it the way that is best for us. And it really should be the same way with God. We can ask God, you have control of my life. God, you do what's best for me. That's us placing our order. God, you take control of 2024. You do what's best for us. God, whatever is supposed to be mine, let me have it. Whatever isn't supposed to be mine, take it away. Whomever's supposed to be there, you allow them to be there. Allow me to meet them. Who's not supposed to be there, you take them out of my life. That is us placing the order. But then we have to get to a point where we say, God, you're in control. You have your way. God, you do your thing your way. And that's when we get to a point where now we let God go into the spiritual kitchen of our lives, do what only he can do, and work things however he wants to work them. This is what I want to challenge you with as we spend this last day, these last few hours of this year and prepare to go into next year. Just trust God. Trust that he has a plan, but not only does he have a plan, he's going to work the plan for our good. Trust that he is the one who's best equipped, best capable, who is well able to make the plan work out for our good. Trust that he is the one that we can give glory to because he can do exceedingly and abundantly above all that we could ever ask or think. So what that means is even what we would have the audacity to ask for, he can do greater or beyond that. Trust God with the plan. But I also want to challenge you. As you spend these next few hours wondering what next year will look like, and even over the first few days of next year, I want to challenge you to seek God's face. Don't seek him for, God, what are you going to do? But I really begin to ask God, who are you calling me to be? Don't spend time saying, God, will I get this or will I get that or will this work out or will that work out? But really spend time just saying, God, who are you calling me to be? How are you calling me to be more loving in this new year? God, who are you calling me to serve more or be intentional about just connecting with more in this new year? God, what is it that you're calling me to do? How can I fit as a part of your plan? God, how do you want to use me? Maybe a neighbor, it may be a family member, it may be a friend, it may be a coworker, it may be someone that you don't even know right now, but you should spend time praying and asking God, spend time seeking his face through his word to say, God, help me to get ready for what you want to do, not for me, but through me and in me next year. I want to challenge us. Let's be intentional about making ourselves available for God to use us to bring his name glory. because God has a plan for us, but God also has a plan that he wants to work through us. He wants to help someone else see his son through your life. And so what we must be willing to do is make ourselves available so that God can use us for his honor and his glory. We're a few hours away. We have less than 24 hours, but God wants to do something great in you when you make yourself available. Happy New Year.